Welcome to another Reelin' with Nick, and today it's all about chatterbaits.
Reelin' with Nick. Reelin' with Nick.
You know, it's no secret that a chatterbait has become a staple in many of our tackle boxes. And why is that? Because they're easy to use and they catch fish. One of our favorite parts is always the lure selection. We're always fascinated by lures, and with the chatterbait, it's really no different. But sorry to say, I like to keep it really simple. All right, my chatterbaits are actually made local, so I've tried many different brands out there, and there's a lot of good ones. Some characteristics that I'm looking for in a good chatterbait is always going to be a full skirt. I love a full skirt, but you'll take notice that I do trim the skirt. And I also like the fact that when I go to crank or when I go to jig, I want that blade to start acting and vibrating right away. Not all brands will do that, and you'll have to experiment with that a little bit. As far as colors are concerned, I keep it simple. All right, so I got black and blue with a black blade. White and chartreuse is a good staple anywhere you go. A bluegill or a sungill type color. A gold. A gold really looks like a perch. You know, if you try that out in clear water, it's a great one. And then always a shad color. As far as a trailer is concerned, I really go with the Zacho type trailer. It's nice and soft. And as you'll take notice, and I'll show you closer, you'll see that I like to trim my skirts down to the bottom of the hook. I really want to be able to see that trailer because it's a nice lifelike presentation. I know it's a power fishing technique, but it's still a finesse type style for me, and I really like that. So let's get into how I take a chatterbait and a Zacho and put it together. So again, we're going to keep everything real simple. 3/8 ounce and 1/2 ounce are going to be my choices as far as sizes. 1/2 ounce if I'm fishing deep structure like brush piles. And then 3/8 ounce is going to be my size of choice most of the time as I fish submerged vegetation around docks and other shallow water structures. We already went over colors, so we're going to demonstrate how we put a Zacho trailer on the back of a chatterbait. So first thing I'm going to do is, as I said, I like to trim my skirting down a little bit. So I'm going to trim my skirting about an 1/8 inch to a 1/4 inch past the bottom of the hook and get rid of some of that skirting. So it makes a little bit of a mess. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to thread the Zacho on there. Nice and easy. And then we'll come out. And then we'll just push it right onto the chatterbait. And it's that simple. We now have a chatterbait with the Zacho on there. And you can see how lifelike that is. And how nice that would look going through the water. So the first thing we want to talk about is tools, rods and reels. So the rod that I'm going to choose when I'm in a tournament or when it's game time is going to be the Speed Demon Pro chatterbait rod. And I'm going to pair that up with the Bassinator Classic 8:1-to-1 gear ratio. This thing is super sensitive and also very light. The reel alone weighs 5.7 ounces, okay? This thing here paired up with the line that we'll talk about later allows me to actually feel the bait. I can actually feel the vibration as it comes through the water. I can tell if it's hitting vegetation, if it's failing, if it's hitting logs. And I can also, if I kill the bait and let it hit the bottom, I can tell if I'm in mud or if I'm in a hard bottom. I can actually feel it in my hand. Okay, so that's my first setup. My second setup is if, you know, I'm out in the boat and I'm reaching for a versatile setup, or if I'm bank fishing or I'm just a bass angler on a budget, I'm going to go with this one here. This is a Para G2, 7'1", medium heavy, and I have that with a Crixus Armor X, 7:2-to-1 gear ratio. And again, this is a very versatile rod. It'll get you through a lot of different techniques, but it also is very good for this one as well. The next thing we want to talk about is line. And what I put on my reels, both reels have the same thing. It's 30-pound Cast Pro braid. And if I'm fishing heavy vegetation, if I'm ripping it out of vegetation, or it's just really thick, I will go direct to the chatterbait with that braid. But for everything else, open water, docks, laydowns, brush piles, things like that, I'm going to go to a 10 to 8 foot fluorocarbon leader. And there's multiple reasons why I do that. Okay, so think about it like this. If you go direct to braid, we all know that braid doesn't have much stretch at all. So a lot of times what braid will do to our lures, especially ones like this, is they'll take away the action. We're actually overpowering the action out of the lure. So what I'll do is I'll use that fluorocarbon leader, and it'll act like a buffer between the braid and the lure to give you that natural appearance of the chatterbait. The other thing it'll do is it'll help me get down to that depth I want to a lot quicker. And then the third thing it'll do is it's again that buffer between the braid and the lure. It helps take some of that impact on hook sets that'll help me land more fish. So when we talk about fluorocarbon leader, I'm going with an 8 to 10 foot 100% fluorocarbon leader, and I'm usually using the 15 pounds. Okay, anything higher than that, you really got to be careful of your knot. And I'm using an Alberto knot, so it's very small. But if you're using micro guides on your rods, you might have troubles with that line constantly going through those guides. So be careful. So if you're going to have problems with that, don't worry. Just go straight fluorocarbon in those situations, or straight braid. But what braid to fluoro does for me is it allows me to have best of both worlds with one rod and one reel. So I can quickly, if I want to go straight braid, I go straight braid. If I want fluorocarbon, I put that leader on with an Alberto knot, and I'm in business that way as well. Now, as far as retrieves go, what do I like? I'll cast out there, and I can do a steady retrieve. Okay, keeping it high on that water column with this 8:1 gear ratio, or I can slow it down and really crawl it across the bottom, almost like a crankbait across the bottom, coming through vegetation or ripping it, you know, through vegetation. The other thing I'll do is I'll throw it out there, and if I'm in vegetation, or if I just want to see what the bottom's like, sometimes I'll just jig it, almost like a jig. And I can feel that vibration coming up through my hand here. I know it's working. And when you get a bite, they're going to take it. I mean, they're going to take it. I mean, sometimes they'll take it right out of your hand. But that's the retrieves I tend to use. And again, with this setup, I can feel that vibration every time. Another nice feature of the chatterbait is the one hook design. And unlike many other baits, you don't have the treble hooks to worry about. So when I'm taking it around laydowns, underwater structure, you know, your vegetation and things like that, I can feel my way through there, and I can keep it running naturally the way it's supposed to without getting hung up. Check out this video and you'll see what I mean. As always, I hope this video helped you become a better angler. If you like it, subscribe, like, and comment below. And remember, there's no such thing as a bad day on the water.